So we covered variables and functions. Now again, this is where we had it before. We could select these nodes, right click it, and collapse that to a function automatically. And then we can seconds, and then we can add our other parameter, which was seconds or timer set, whatever the hell we called it. So just showing that off. So another thing we can do, because again this is going to start getting very clustered really quick, you can collapse it to a function, but you can also just collapse the nodes. Now this is similar to a function in the sense that it's all in this section here. You double click on it and then you can jump in on it. In fact, here it is right here on the event graph. The difference is that you can't reuse these. Right? I can't drag this over here. I can drag this function in there, but I can't drag this over there. So collapsing the nodes makes things a bit more readable when things get really cluttered, but they do not have the same functionality as a function. They're a little bit more limited. So one more thing in terms of making your code more readable is you can select all this and create a comment section. And we can call this timer example. And in fact, you can color that so you can make it stand out, and you can just grab the whole section like this. Now this is again just an organization thing. This doesn't actually add to the functionality, but it makes it a little more readable. You can have your different sections color coded, labeled, whatever. So when you're stepping through your code and you're trying to figure out what does what, it's a little more readable. Now the last thing I want to cover before getting to something that is actually functional is, I'm going to disconnect that. This idea of casting. Now what that means is that we want to pull from a different class of object. For example, if we go to cast to actor. That's not a good example. So what do I mean by this? Well, let's say, for example, we've got our main player character. Let's create another class and just make that an actor. I'll call that enemy actor. And then let's add a mesh component to it. Our skeletal mesh, and we'll set that to our other guy. And then let's create a collision capsule. And this is just a quick example. So now, let's say that our capsule component here collides with something. Okay? So let's do a begin overlap. That means when this capsule overlaps with some other collision object. So let's say that if what we want is when we run into an enemy actor, we want to destroy it. So first thing we need to do is we need to cast to enemy actor. Now right now this isn't going to do anything because we don't have an object. But we do have one coming in from this collision event. So we're basically saying, okay, whatever we collided with, we're going to grab that actor and we're going to cast it to enemy actor. Now what happens if what you ran into wasn't an enemy actor? What if it was something else? Well, then the cast will fail. So that's fine. And then what we'll do is, assuming we've casted the enemy actor, we will destroy the actor. Now, right now the target itself, what that means is, because we're in the player character BP, right now this would actually destroy the player character. That's not what we want. We want to destroy the enemy actor. That's why we cast to that. And we can test that real quick. Actually, I don't know if we can test that. Yeah, because I don't have the ability to move our character yet. Alright. So we're going to have to wait to test that because we don't have the ability to move our character yet. Which is fine. But that's what casting is. And that's important because the animation blueprint is going to have to cast to its owning pawn in order to get information out of it. So I just wanted to kind of bring that concept into bear, because that's a really important Unreal convention that you got to kind of wrap your mind around. So that's part 2 of our 4-part series on animation systems within the Unreal Engine. We have set up our skeleton and our character. We have retargeted animations onto our character, set up 2D and 1D blend spaces to drive our character animation. We've also set up additive animations. And then we wrapped up this lesson by getting a quick primer into how blueprints work. Next tutorial, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of how to set up blueprints and animation blueprints, including how to get user input from the engine, from the keyboard, from the controller, to drive our character. And we're going to wrap it up by doing some really cool stuff with the Anim Blueprint to share animations, do some procedural stuff, and some really cool stuff at the end. Join us here next time for the next installment, and as always, thank you for watching us here at 3dmotive.com.